Hi, I'm Denny Johns with Surf Prep, and today I want to talk to you about our orbital sanders. So we have two different sizes of orbital sanders that we have. We have a 5-inch and we have a 6-inch. And then also between the two of them, they each come in two different orbits. So you can get them in a 3/32 orbital or you can get them in a 3/16 orbital. So what is the difference in when would I want to have either one of them? So that can vary depending on a lot of different aspects. But I want to talk to you about a couple different things. If you are using your sander to take off a lot of material, if you want to do a lot of work quickly, you're going to probably want to look at having a 3/16 orbit. And the reason for that is what we're talking about with 3/16 or 3/32 orbital. You can see how this spins around in a circle, but these will also not only spinning around in a circle, but it actually oscillates within that during the same time. So if you have a 3/16 inch orbit and a 3/32 orbit, the 3/32 is half the size of the 3/16. So it will not be as aggressive when you're sanding. So when does this come into play? If I've got a job I'm doing where I'm taking maybe the stain off of a cabinet door or a piece of woodwork, or if I'm trying to take the paint off of something in order to prepare it to either be painted or stained again, you may want to look at using the 3/16 orbit because that is going to be more aggressive. It's going to do more work faster, and it's going to eliminate some of the time that you would spend versus a 3/32. Now the 3/32 on the other hand, that for me as a cabinet maker, that was my preferred sander. All of the ones that I've ever had have been 3/32, and the reason for that is it gives you a little finer sanding pattern. It'll give you smaller swirls when you're sanding, and generally speaking, it won't be so aggressive. So if you're doing something like sanding a veneer, for instance, where it's only like a 16th of an inch thick or less, and you're trying to sand that, but you don't want to sand all the way through, that's a great time to be using the 3/32 because it won't be sanding quite as fast and quite as aggressively. So that is the difference between the two of them in terms of orbit. Now let's talk about size. Why would you want a 5-inch versus why would you want a 6-inch? Well, that too just depends on what you're doing and who you are. The 5-inch sander is by far the most popular in the industry. You'll see this much more widely used than you will the 6-inch sander. If you go into any of the home centers, any place like that that sells orbital sanders, they're all going to be pretty much 5-inch sanders. So you figure when people are starting out and they get their first sander, it's probably going to be, from one of the manufacturers that are sold at a home center, and that's going to be a 5-inch. So when they graduate to a higher quality tool, they've already got the abrasives. They're already used to it, so it makes a lot of sense to go to that 5-inch sander. Now the 6-inch sander, this is actually my preferred one. I do like this one a lot, and we use all the 6-inch ones in my shop. There's a couple reasons why you'd want to use that one as well. So I want to talk to you about the difference. So as you can see, this is a 5-inch disc, and this is a 6-inch disc. This has 6.25 square inches of surface area on that disc. This one has 9 square inches. So by going up 1 inch in diameter, you gain about another 50% of surface area on that disc. And what does that give you? That does a couple things. Number one, it's going to give you more abrasive. So you look at all the additional abrasive you have that are showing on this back one versus this one, meaning that you're going to have more abrasive to work longer during the period of time that you're using that. The other thing you're going to do is when you're sanding, you got to think about the pressure that you're putting down. When you're sanding, you should always put minimal pressure on the sander when you're sanding in order to reduce heat buildup and for the abrasive to cut properly. When you distribute the same amount of force over a 5-inch disc versus a 6-inch disc, you're actually going to be putting less pressure on the surface as you're sanding, which is also an advantage to you too. Now there's going to be some situations where you're working in a smaller area and this just isn't going to be convenient because it doesn't fit in there. Then this is a great option too. So both great options. We have both options covered, both in size and also in orbit. So just depending on what you do and how you do it, one of them could be the right solution for you, but that at least should let you know the reasons for one or the other and why you might pick them.